Welcome to Conversations with Coach Lloyd. I'm Coach Lloyd, 25-time Ironman and first African-American to finish an Ironman on all 6 continents, plus Kona. With Conversations with Coach Lloyd, we're just trying to bring some coaches, some athletes to share some great information with you. So today we have Marcus Fitz. Marcus is a DC-based multidisciplinary designer, brand strategist, and endurance athlete. He spent the last 6 years focusing on helping introduce new triathletes to the sport of triathlon and creating a community of Black and minority athletes to feel welcomed. There lacks pathways to introduce urban youth and adults to collegiate and high-level programs, teams, coaching, opportunities, clinics, camps, to have true representation in multi-sports. And Marcus aims to help elevate that experience down an unfamiliar road. Please welcome my guest, Coach Fitz.
Hey, thanks, Lloyd.
How are you doing?
I'm really good. It's good to be here.
That's a pretty full description, full design of all that you do.
Yeah.
A nice bite-sized condensed information.
Bite-sized pieces, man. We can't lay all the cards at the table at once.
Perfect. Now, I didn't know you were a designer. What's that about? So is that your regular, is that the part of you that I don't know, the regular 9-to-5 part?
Yeah, that's so yeah, everybody thinks that I just run around DC and the desert all day, every day. I do have a 9-to-5, just like every other normal person, or most people, I guess. But I went to Savannah College of Art and Design, and I graduated in 2011 with an advertising design degree. So pretty much I design websites, digital campaigns, and apps. That's pretty much what I do on a day-to-day basis.
Oh, okay. You learn something new after knowing you for a while. It's always interesting to find out folks' day job, what supports the hobby.
Exactly. And hopefully the hobby, we can get somewhere where I can just take a back seat and do that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. I like where that can take you. From what you've been doing the past few years, I think it's just a matter of time before that becomes a reality.
Yeah, it makes all this stuff. It keeps the overhead low on my end and helps elevate, I guess, my story. So I guess it's definitely been a benefit.
Okay. Now you've got a number of years of experience. You've been doing a lot of stuff. So can you just give me a little background as to how you got into multi-sports?
Yeah, so I'm gonna date you a little bit. I'm gonna throw this out here. You were the first person to ever talk about multi-sports, like, in my life. I never knew about it before, and I'll take you back. I want to say it was my freshman year of high school. We're gonna go back there.
Okay, yeah.
I had to get community service hours for school. So I was on Craigslist searching for community service or like little jobs and stuff I could do in my spare time, and get these points to graduate. And so I come across a splash and dash on Craigslist, and I think it was like $10 an hour to help set up a course in Rock Creek Park. No clue who you were. I think it was like Kian.
My cousin Kian was out there helping organize it.
So I hit her up. I'm like, hey, I need these hours. Do you have any positions? Like, what's the situation? I didn't even know what a splash and dash was. I wasn't into any of it. So I get there. It was a great experience. I met a bunch of great people and learned about this run, swim. I think it was a splash and dash.
Well, we had a number of stuff. We had the 5Ks, 10Ks. We also had the splash and dash. We were offering lots of, races at the time that season. Just I think about every month that summer or so, had some sort of program that we're introducing to the community.
Yeah, it was dope. And I couldn't have cared. Like, I didn't care at the time.
Yeah.
I didn't care. I'm like, I'm cold. I'm outside doing labor. And it wasn't until we were breaking down from the race and we were putting cones and going back to your storage place to help you unload all the equipment. And you were talking about like the sport and everything, and then come back full circle. Here we are, kind of in this multi-sport universe together. And you've been such an inspiration in the journey. Once I actually found out about what triathlon was as an adult, like 8 years later.
It's good to see that you got hooked indirectly. I mean, we
Right.
planted the seed way back when, and just gave it time to grow. And fast forward now you're like on the cutting edge of everything multi-sport. You're leading the charge out there. You're the person everyone sees. They open up a triathlon magazine. They're gonna see you on a cover or in an article or somewhere. Just kind of taking it to that next level.
Yeah, and I mean that's what representation is. And I never got into the space and thought about it. And I'm still like, people are helping paint this picture of what it means to truly represent in the sport of triathlon. And it's not all about, being the best or being the fastest or anything like that. It's opening the doors for the next people to come in. And what you've done for me and the guidance that you've given me, like say Speed Project and races and knowledge and everything that you've taken, I've used at some point. And I think like I want to be able to do that for somebody else. And it takes all of us, because when I got into this, like I felt like I knew everybody, every Black person that did triathlon. Like I'm like, this is it. This is all of us. We're all together. And now like being connected with BTA and going to races and seeing this larger community and how the power that social media has to connect all these dots has been encouraging and motivating. And I'm just excited to see where this journey goes.
Okay. Now, when in high school you weren't into it, were you an athlete in high school, or did you start being an athlete in college? Or what discipline were you did you focus on in the early days?
Yeah, it wasn't I was into multiple sports. So one of the things, my mom really encouraged swimming. She couldn't swim, and she had some scary swim experiences in a near drowning. So for me and my sister, like it was really important to get us into swimming, just so that we can enjoy vacations, not drown, and start that journey. I mean, swimming has opened so many doors, but at the same time, it's kind of been like a hindrance, because in high school, I was scared to swim. I was nervous because I was scared to be teased or made fun of. You put on a little jammer and the speedo, and it just kids are like joning and everything else, and I didn't want to be victim to that. So I didn't swim post I guess like elementary school, and then I guess with maturity and growing up, I picked it up a little bit later, and I'll get to that in a second. But I played football, I played track, and field, just anything, basketball. I just love sports. Like
you were generally athletic, throughout your youth and moving forward. So it's not like, hey, I wasn't doing anything and then all of a sudden I picked up tri. You were pretty active.
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I was active. And really what got me back into like the whole endurance and multi-sports realm was I had a football injury. I basically tore my knee apart. Football game, last 2 minutes of the game. I tore my MCL, my LCL, my MPFL.
Oh wow.
yeah, what started my transition, and mentally, I wasn't the best student. So like helped me refocus in school, got my mind thinking about like what other opportunities could I do to be active. And that's where swimming came back into play. And then I became um, the varsity team captain for my high school swim team, you know, getting back into rehab and recovery. And then I ended up getting a college scholarship to swim.
Oh, wow. That's impressive. So you went from, hey, I don't want to wear the jammers and get teased, to all of a sudden be like, look, I'm going to put these jammers on and go get me a college scholarship.
I dove in, man, literally. It was crazy because I mean, I'd always been good at swimming, but I just never took it seriously. And so I just revisited. I was like, yo, I need to go to college. I need some money. Academics wasn't going to take me there. So here, sports, here we are.
Okay. I like that. Cause I know when you started to do tries, it was like, you know, the swim, you know, you were killing the swim, which, you know, when you encounter athletes in triathlon, usually for adult swimmers, you know, the swim is always the gateway for, oh, I'm struggling to get into the sport. And that always is the question. Whereas for you, when you came in, it was just like, oh, you're loving the swim. You know, how much more swim can we get to open up your lead when it came to the rest of the day?
Right. And that kind of set me up. It was a gift, but also a curse, because when I first got into the sport of triathlon, they seeded a lot of the races I did were seeded by swim time. So I get there, and there was one race in particular in Miami. They seeded me with the pros because my swim time was so fast. And that was like the worst mistake I've ever made in my life. I was not prepared. So
yeah, I can see how that day goes horribly bad real quick.
It was terrible. So I had my first pro race.
Okay.
As a non-pro, and it was I rented a bike. I didn't have a wetsuit. You know, my run wasn't anywhere near where it should have been. And putting all that together for a first time in a pro race, like I got in with the pros. They all had wetsuits. It was 8 of us, 8 men. And I'm looking at this crowd of like hundreds of people behind. And I'm like, no. I was like, what did I do? We get in, dive in, my goggles fall off in the water, and I'm keeping up with the pack. But then we get to the bike, and then the run, and then the race is just gone. It's gone. It's over. I was like, all right, let me come back down to reality and actually train.
That's when everyone starts to pass you and give you words of encouragement on the bike. Like, attaboy, you're looking good. Keep it up.
Yeah, we all have this. So I was like, all right, I see where the gap is now.
Okay.
I got the full picture of the sport and the training and why everything matters. And so I came back and I was like, how do I connect all these dots? How do we put all these pieces together? But sorry, I skipped like really far ahead.
No, that's all right. We'll circle back. I've got a couple questions here from the feed here that I'll send to you in a second. But I like where you were taking me where with the racing, and as you pull it all back in. You know, sometimes we always have a tendency to look at other athletes and think, okay, you know, they're crushing it, and then you realize like we all have the same common, you know, issues that pop up.
Right. And we got to go through the process just like everybody else. Like triathlon, like you can be great at one discipline, right? But then when you put these other pieces together, it levels out at some point, and you have to be realistic with yourself, and the training matters, especially when you get to the distance. And that's one thing that I learned very early.
Okay.
Some tips that I learned from you.
Yeah. You know, you can wing it up to a certain point, but then, you know, you got to put the time in. Well, before I dive into, you know, your training, I got a couple questions here. Someone wants to know about how long was your rehab following your knee surgery, and how long did it take before you got back into swimming?
Ooh, the rehab for my first surgery, it took me 6 months to even have the surgery. After I got injured, super delayed, awful. Like by the time I got in the surgery, like my knee was like this pin, like
Wow.
the leg was nothing. So basically coming out of it, I want to say I spent 2 years doing rehab, and a year really intensive. And so like the initial stage of that recovery process, that I remember they hooked me up to this machine, and it was the most painful experience that I've ever had in my entire life. It's basically like a crank. I don't know what it's called. But they take the leg and they strap it in, and it rocks it back and forth and back and forth and back to get the range of motion.
Yeah.
And to the point, I'm like tears just pouring. And I did that for about 3 months until I got to like maybe 45 degrees. And that's when I was able to kind of get in the water, ride a bike to get a full circle. And it was barely, like right here, I'm like pushing it to get over. So I'm still honestly dealing with that range of motion. That's why I've been doing yoga and connecting with Lululemon and really focusing on like recovery.
All right. Someone said it's the CPM machine.
CPM. Okay. Thank you. Never knew that.
Yeah. It sounds like they may have had a similar experience with it for them to rattle it off just like that for us. Right.
It's the torture chamber. I never cared to know the name.
Some things you just block out. Like, I never need to know what that was. Now, okay. So you've done some tries. What was it that switched you from, okay, I'm an athlete, I'm doing this, that opened you up to say, hey, I want to, start a triathlon club and, start to get more people into it versus like, hey, I'm in it, I'm having fun. What was that thought process of, starting a club from scratch?
Yeah. One thing about, I guess, just my journey from high school to that point is I was really good at starting brands, and creating brands. I got done like t-shirt lines. I worked for an airbrush studio when I was in Savannah. There was like a little government project, a facility called like Yamakra Village. And we created, created a community where we taught, me and some friends, and then one of the guys that owned like a carryout, we created an airbrush shop. So we taught kids how to airbrush, and, do paint. So like just these different points of like being put in these leadership roles really kind of like prepared me to do bigger projects. So after like rehab and recovery, I had more friends kind of helping me through my recovery process on my second knee surgery. And that was after I did my first triathlon, Nations Tri, back in 2015. So my second surgery was December 2015. Just really to keep my knee from dislocating. So I had a little issue with my patella placement. So I corrected that so I could enjoy running long term. And the focus was really swimming, so I could keep that impact really low. So my friends, they wanted to help me, but they were also motivated to sign up for their first triathlon. And I think we picked like Hagerstown Sprint to do the next year in 2016. So that would be like my first triathlon comeback race. And I did it with 6 buddies. And then so getting to that point of getting people in the pool, learning how to swim, helping them along my recovery process, got to a point where like 20 and 30 people started coming to the pool, and we're packing out like Tacoma facility. And I'm like, all right, we're here. We got to call it something. So we're going through all these names like district this and swim and triathlon that. And I knew I didn't want to have like black this or like black triathlon something. I didn't want to pigeonhole myself into a box. Because there's a lot of clubs that are branded in that fashion, and I wanted to leave it open for like flexibility and any other kind of opportunities that were maybe didn't become a Black club. I don't know.
Okay.
So District Triathlon ended up sticking, and for the first kind of venture, and I think it's like there was no intention of making it a corporate entity or business. We just wanted to get people out and about, and we spent the first 3 years kind of on that platform. But then when you have so many people participating, I mean, we had like the first year 113 athletes in like a group chat forum interacting, and we got to the point where DPR sent me an email saying you got to get a permit.
So DPR is Department of Parks and Recs, right?
Yeah.
So they put like, hey, you can't roll in with 100 folks and just say this. We all just happen to meet here at the same time.
Yeah, I was like, yeah, we don't know each other. Like,
forget about the chalkboard that I have on the side with the workout.
Don't pay attention to that.
Don't pay attention to that, or the coaches walking on the pool deck giving feedback. We just all decided to randomly meet here at 6:30 for a swim workout.
Exactly. And I tried to be slick a couple times where I'm like, all right, write it out and just take up as many lanes as you can and just kind of act like you don't know each other. And that only worked for so long. And so we decided to add like a membership component to it.
Okay.
And, that was received differently when you start putting prices and stuff to things. People take it however they want to take it. And, but for the most part, it was very positive.
Okay.
And then in 2017, became a nonprofit 501c3 charitable organization. And at that point was my pivot. It's like I've dedicated all these years into this group, and what does my future look like? What does my journey look like? And that's when I really got serious about like vision, strategy, mission.
So it sounds like you stumbled into it, where it was just like a group of you.
Yeah.
A group of friends, like, hey, we're gonna all meet up. It was start off as just your rehab project, and it just kind of morphed into a whole, new thing.
Yeah, it snowballed, man, like really, really quick. And like when I came up, I kept having to come up for air to breathe, and there's all these things happening, and things moved really, really quickly, and it picked up steam. And you just have to be flexible. And, I took it and ran with it. And I got my friends to help, and, haven't looked back.
Yeah. I mean, I've seen you guys now at races and at events, doing things in the community. And it's like, it's a force. Like, wow, that many, of you guys out there in a club format. It's pretty nice. I've got a couple questions for you based on forming that club. Lindita asks, working with minority youth, what are some of common myths you've had to debunk introducing them to multi-sports, or the challenges?
Every single one. I mean, the typical stereotypes: Black people can't swim. And it's like everybody can't swim. Like everybody, Black, white, Hispanic, like everybody comes in like needing the swim base. So that stereotype has been debunked for me, and like it's good to showcase it because we've had many people come in that didn't know how to swim prior to joining the group. Or even like outside of the group, they just reach out to me individually, because I was a high school coach for 6 years at Northwestern. I was a head coach of their varsity swim team. So having that, and then transitioning to triathlon, some of these kids and even the adults, they go from nothing to doing an Ironman that same year. And that was the biggest one. Now, another thing that happens, and it happens to me pretty often, is that when I go to the race, and then the feedback, before I even talk about anything or introduce myself, they're like, yeah, say we're cheering. And then someone in the crowd, they come up to me and they have someone else in the race. He's like, oh, you can do this race too. If you don't know how to swim, there's these programs. Like, where did I ever say I don't know how to swim? It's just an assumption. It's like it's on black. Like, I get it. Okay? That's one thing, and I've experienced it, and I know other team members have. To and just kind of like being approached at race, especially when we're in a large group. How do we get here? Like, what do we do? Like the questions you probably wouldn't ask another group that wasn't predominantly Black. Trying to think what else. I don't know. That's a good question.
Okay. Now I know as a coach, with the athletes you work with, as you said, regardless of color, everyone has issues with swimming.
Everybody.
I don't know how many people who've come to me or you who thought they knew how to swim. And then, they're like, no, I can swim. And you get them to the pool and you're like, yeah, okay. You got to get some lessons. And if you're going to try to, finish that half mile or 1 mile swim,
right?
Because, most people adult swimmers are going to have it unless they have a swim background and have been doing laps, but recently, but most of us.
Even with that though, there's a difference between pool swimming and open water. Like even for an experienced swimmer, and like the way you swim has to change. Like that was something I had to learn, is the way I sprint and the way I do various things between a pool and open water had to change.
Yep.
Like, how do you exit and enter a wave, and wider versus shorter? It's dealing with chop and then smooth. You have to change it up based on your conditions.
Absolutely. Yep. It's the way I tell everyone is you're just trying to have all the tools in your toolkit as a swimmer, and you pull out what you need under, as the circumstances change, right. Whether it's a wave or, someone swimming on one side, so you can't breathe to the left, so you have to breathe to the right, or, the sun. You just want to have the tools available, to get through the swim.
Exactly.
So I've got another question here from Cherie. She wants, what advice would you give to someone who is new to the sport, and what do you enjoy most about competing?
Everybody's going to have their various reason why, and drilling down that reason is going to give you your real reason for doing triathlon to begin with. But getting into the sport is there's like a checkbox, right? A checklist that you want to address is like knowing the gear, knowing the right gear to have, knowing, doing the training, being realistic with your time, because that's one gauge. Is like it's time management. Triathletes are some of the best time management. You have to get good at it. Because it is balance. You have to be able to do your day job and pay your bills and train so you can have a good experience at your first race, if a race is something you're looking to do. And then try to connect with people in the community. And I know like not everybody, depending on where you are, has a very engaging triathlon community. So like try to get some accountability partners. I mean, social media is such a powerful tool. Like you can get into a Facebook forum or Instagram and really try to connect with people. I mean, Strava has been great. I've met up with people in Strava in the past. Like I go out to LA and I always have someone on a bike ride. No matter where I go, I can really find a group of people to get a workout in with. And then it's always a learning experience. Like always be open to new advice and to learn. But yeah, the equipment and gear, knowing that you don't have to get the best gear to do your first race and need everything. It's pretty simple. Like get the necessities, know that, like, my take is there's no such thing as a casual triathlete. It's either you're going to invest in it or you're not. Like, you have to invest. And yeah, that's my take. And what was the second part of the question?
What do you enjoy most about competing?
Oh man, I enjoy going fast. I that's just that's what makes me happy in everything. I like to go fast. It's not always about winning. Like, do I want to make it on a podium? Absolutely. If I would be lying to you if I didn't want to do that. Like, I want to win. I know I'm not always going to win, but that's the goal. How can I be faster than yesterday? So if I can see I'm having growth, that's good for me. Like, that's enough. As long as I'm hitting my PRs, I'm hitting my goals, I'm staying healthy, and yeah, and I like, like, for a body, like, I like the way I look when I've trained and put in the work and gone down a health and wellness journey. And I love the people that I've met in this process. Like, some of the best experiences and people I've met in the sport of triathlon.
Now, I know when it comes to being competitive or competing, I know for a minute there, you were real picky on where you were racing. You were doing like serious research on, which race you were gonna go, what time of year it was, how far you would travel in order to, to get what you were looking for. I think you were even, heading out to Asia sometimes.
Where?
Or thinking about heading out to Asia.
Yeah. So, man, I got really, and the pandemic messed it. Well, there's two things that messed it up. One, I didn't take rest when I needed to. So I had, and you told me, and I didn't listen. You told me, Marcus, sit your ass down, and I didn't listen.
I'm going to take a break right here, and just as an infomercial, rest is where the magic happens, folks. You got either you take the rest or the rest will show up for you. One way or the other, your body's going to get the rest. All right, back to the information at hand.
Yeah. I have to learn by fire a lot of the times, and that's one thing my mom tells me a lot. That's how I was as a kid, and I've gotten a lot better with that. So we go to speed project. I had a stress fracture. I should have rested, but I continued running, and I ended up breaking my leg. So it took 8 months out of my race season to rehab this injury, and 2020 was looking real good. But in terms of that race strategy, like, I was really diving into races and looking at people's times compared to mine, how the age group stacked up, and then what the point systems of those races were looking like. Because at that goal, I was like, at that time, I was looking at half distance races that you could qualify for Kona for a full distance. I didn't want to do a full distance Ironman. I was like, how can I get to Kona without actually doing an Ironman? So that was my game plan for Kona. But on the flip side, when I got into cycling hardcore, I wanted to see where that could take me. And that journey was just speed. Like, I still had legs. I didn't have like track and field legs.
Okay.
Somewhere in between like track and field and kind of like this half marathon distance, which really lent itself to doing well in the Olympic, like in a 10K. So I was really looking for draft legal events, which isn't really widely popular yet, but it's getting there.
Okay. You mentioned something a couple times. I just want to dive into it. You mentioned the speed project. Can you let everyone know? I know you coached it a couple times. I know you ran it a couple times. Just let us know what exactly is the speed project.
Yeah, it's I guess it's in its seventh or eighth year. We've done it 3 times, or it would have been 4 times this year, but the pandemic. One in a virtual local capacity, and then twice in the desert. So it's a 340-mile race from Santa Monica Pier in LA to the Welcome Sign in Vegas. So they kind of have like 2 different subsets.
Wait, don't just roll through that. Slow that down a bit for me.
Yeah, 340 miles
from Santa Monica to Vegas.
Yeah, in 2 days. So you leave on a Friday and finish on a Sunday.
Okay.
And there's like a pool party, but it's all done on foot, relay style, with 6 people. You can have a bigger team, but to be part of the competitive category, you have to have 4 men and 2 women.
Okay.
On your team. And so the goal is to get from point A to point B the fastest, and there's no rules except, you can't run on certain, roads and paths. You can take any route you want.
Okay.
To get there. So you make your own route, you book your own support. There's no course or race support. It's just you, a map, GPS, and your runners. And if somebody gets injured during the event, you can't sub them out.
Okay.
So 6 goes to 5 and so on.
So you're it's a relay. You're doing it as a
relay style, and it's nonstop. You run through the day, you run through the night, you run through the desert, you run on road. And Lloyd was clutch. You were clutch in that. I mean, Lloyd, you were like, yeah, if I'm not back in 9 minutes, come find me. And if like on the dot, 20 minutes, 90 minutes later, here's Lloyd around trotting along, getting it.
Like, I remember when you called me. I remember when you called me to run that. I was like, wait, what?
I didn't think you were gonna do it. I was so excited.
I was like, yeah, I haven't done anything crazy in a while, so this would do. But yeah, it was a very memorable experience. I remember we had the RV, the follow van, and we just kind of, drove through the desert. Was that Death Valley and a couple other
Death Valley. We went through like Barstow was one of the main points where the race really changes. So you start from LA and kind of go north to Barstow, and then you come back, you go through Death Valley, through the mountains, and then like Vegas is sitting here in this, it just looks so far away. And we got there like after sunlight. You have to make it through Death Valley before nightfall because the roads are so windy and tractor trailers are coming around. Like there is no shoulder, there's no nothing. It could go, everything could go wrong. So like we have to get through Death Valley.
So what I came in after the fact, but what I mean, I've had some crazy ideas, but nothing like that. So what was it about that made you say when you first heard about it, where you was like, yeah, this sounds like a good idea, and I think I could get 5 or 6 other people to do this with me. Like, yeah, what? I came in late, so I missed that whole first part of what even got it on your radar as something as this would be fun and or a good idea. Yeah.
So to zoom out about the people who started Speed Project, there's like a underground running movement called Bridge the Gap.
Okay.
It's a global all planet movement that unites kind of like creatives and artists and Olympic qualifiers and everybody in the mix that are in the running, and to unite them. And usually each year from how it started, there was a race they picked and rallied around. It's like run, party, repeat is like the theme. So it's like combining cultures and combining different race crews from around the world. So this group of people, they got together and they set out to like just do something crazy. And that's how the original OG route was created. And so that's been kind of like their staples. Like, can anybody beat our original time from LA to Vegas? And people were like, yeah. And then brands got on board. I mean, Strava, Garmin, Tracksmith, Nike, Adidas. Like, we're in the mix with some of the most competitive athletes in the world. And I'm like, why would I pass? Like, why would I pass up on that opportunity? Like, I don't think I'm gonna win, but if I can like get a group of people and train to try to, and they put out a training plan. Some Nike coaches put out a training plan it's a couple months long, and it's aggressive. You remember that plan?
I do.
It's aggressive.
I do. I saw it. I was like, yeah, okay.
Yeah, it's some elite level training. And I was like, we basically cut the training plan in half to even try to attempt it. But it sets up that reality of this is, and the race isn't about distance or endurance. It's more about recovery. So how we broke it up was in the 5Ks. Well, I think we attempted 10Ks.
Right.
And then that was a little, well, you kept it, Mr. Dependable, but it was a lot for a lot of people. So the goal was to do fast sprints, but then have a lot of time to recover. So the concept of the race is how well can you recover, get back up, and do that 5K as fast as you can. Again, I think our team goal was like an average of like 7:30, which started slipping away pretty quickly. But to put that in perspective, some of the top 3 teams, they had a 5:15 average, team average. That means people were butt hauling. Like,
I remember
crazy times.
I remember when I heard the number, I was like, I can't do a 5:15 on one 5K. I'm not gonna be able to help you out for 340 miles. Like, that's just not gonna happen.
I was like, I need a couple 6-minute miles out of y'all, so y'all gotta figure it
out. Someone's asking, how long did it take to recover from the event?
With alcohol or without alcohol? No. No, I want to say, it's been like 2 days walking very uncomfortably. Okay. And then but actually getting back into training, I want to say like 2 weeks, probably. Okay. Definitely did jogs and runs after the fact, but I felt pretty good just day to day after 2 days. Okay. Which is steps. I don't know how you felt.
I was fine. I think I had a race soon after that.
Did you have Boston or something?
Yeah, I think so. What year? I had something. I don't know if it was an Ironman or a marathon or something soon after. So I think that was my long run leading into leading into whatever race that was.
Yeah. Oh man, you're a wild dude.
Yeah, you guys started. I remember we changed up the route. Oh, not the route, but 10K down to 5, and it was just like, hey, whatever you can run, just run that.
Exactly, and it set us really well for the time we did it in 2019. We took a completely different route, and we had a really solid strategy. But we faced 2 injuries, and so our 6-person team went down to 4, which complicated things. It was really difficult to finish that year, but we got it done, and we had a blast afterwards. And then last year, we did a virtual version where we did the boundary zones of DC. So DC's, I guess boundary line, I think, is about 62 miles. I think it was about 62-mile route. Okay. We did that for 31 hours. Yeah. Same relay style.
Okay. Yeah. So once the pandemic is over, are you guys planning to go back again? Are you going to take another group out there to do it again? Is that your yearly thing now?
Well, so we're gonna do it one more time. We opted out of doing it this year.
Okay.
They're supposed to be having it in May, but we deferred until next year, 2022.
Okay.
So that will be the last year we send the team. So we're gonna go out there one more time.
Okay. Oh man, last time I was just about
Come on, Lloyd.
I was just about ready to tell you I would participate, but you're stopping. So, oh well. We'll find another adventure since that one's you're wrapping up on that one.
Oh, we'll definitely find something. Race across America or something.
I'm sure. I've got a couple more questions for you here from Nasheed's asking, how has your training and race season changed during the pandemic?
Well, obviously the race season changed. It's been non-existent. Training, outside of swimming, not much has changed. I mean, group workouts, haven't been the same, but in terms of training, like I've been able to maintain my training. I took a little bit of a pause. And then the first part of the pandemic, I was in LA. So I really had more focus on the cycling scene. I was able to connect with like Rasan and Legion and Justin and Dante, and they've just been awesome in helping me navigate cycling and the goal of doing more criterium racing. And I did get a couple races in last year, though. I did West Virginia state championships for road cycling. So I raced in the championship category, and it was brutal, man. I didn't realize how many hills were out there. I almost passed out on my bike at the end. Like I was pushing, trying to keep up with the pros. It's like it's a whole different universe out there. And then I did the Baltimore Tri, which was set up really well in a pandemic situation. You had to have a positive COVID or negative COVID test, rather. Sorry. And then your transitions were pretty staggered. And then they had the swim start was a little unique where they had kind of a couple rows and they launched 4 at a time from 2 sections of I guess a running start into the river. And so the exit was also staggered too. So at least there's like 8 people swimming at a time, but from 2 different sections of the beach. So that was kind of awesome to experience. And then it went pretty smooth. So I think there's going to be a lot of success with returning the race. But that was it was only, the capacity was like 125 people. So I don't know what a bigger race like an Ironman would look like. I mean, I'm sure I saw a couple Ironman events did happen, but I'm optimistic about it. Yeah,
I mean, we'll see what, they send out an update saying basically it's going to be based on municipalities and what communities are willing to allow. But they already have a, plan in place to execute events. So it'll be interesting to see how things happen. Jason wants to know, when you have multiple events on your calendar, how do you transition your training plans?
I cater to the main event the most. That's what I cater to, and everything else is a supplement to that race. So one of the things we talked about was I don't race every race. That's one important thing. Like, just because of the race doesn't mean I'm actually racing it. I may be just racing the swim, or I may just be racing the bike or the run, or I may just not be racing any of it. It just may just be a training event. But I want to put it all together. And that's kind of how I supplement. So I do sign up for races, but I'm not racing every single one of them.
So it might be just a supported training workout.
And that's how I always approach it. I really
now in all honesty, are you actually able to maintain that I'm just doing this as a workout throughout, or do you go and how do you balance that? Because I know not too many people can switch on and off. Like, as soon as that adrenaline pumps in, the crowd's cheering, even though it was supposed to be an easy workout, they go all in. So you've been able to say, hey, I'm only going to race the swim and then just chill on the bike and the run, or vice versa?
It was hard at first. I think the last race that was actually hard was the race I did with you, Alcatraz. I was supposed to walk that run.
Yeah.
And I walked it. And once people started passing me, I was like, I can't do it anymore.
But didn't you have a broken foot?
No, I was at the end of my recovery for that stress fracture.
Oh, okay. You had a stress fracture in your foot.
No, it was in my tibia.
Okay.
Yeah, I was at the end, and I was teetering on it. So I'm like, I was supposed to walk the run.
Yeah, I remember seeing you out there. I was like, well, I know he's going to get me on the swim. You know, I might hold on to him for the bike, but I got to run him down on the run because he should not be running.
Yeah. I mean, that race, I demolished the swim and the bike. Like I knocked the bike out the park. And then I was just like, I had a nice cushion if I were racing that race on the run. And then I just like, everybody's just coming. I'm like hearing footsteps and people are like, come on, man. Like, let's go, dude. No.
Those words of encouragement, man, they cut deep.
They cut deep, man.
They cut deep.
But after that race, I was like, you know what? I'm going to stick to what I said I was going to do. And I really haven't had an issue. And then I've been incorporating more cycling into the like cycling races into it to kind of help offset that training.
Okay. I see my time is running out with you, but there's a couple things I got to touch base on before I let you go. I know once you went from District Tri, you started off a new group called Grit USA.
Yeah.
What is Grit USA?
Yeah. So look, what I said earlier about getting to that point where I realized that my journey was shifting, you know, my goals and what I looked at the community and where I saw it was changing, you know, and it wasn't about members and membership and everything, like still community. But I started to see the bigger picture, like the more embedded I got with USA Triathlon and the governing body, like I was like, we need more pathways. It has to come like more at a corporate brand level and trickle down. It's like we can't address these barriers until we get the brands and corporations and governing bodies on board to really understand what's happening because they're not in these communities and there's this huge gap. So when you get someone started in triathlon for the first time as a novice athlete, they get through their first couple races in season and then they get to this point of, all right, I want to be more competitive. What's out there? Like, where do I go? And outside of just getting a coach and doing it on your own, there's no other entity between professional, elite, and novice and recreation. So there's this void. And at the same time, when I started District Tri, it was catered to adults. And I feel like the experience would be better served if we created high school development programming, because I feel like there would be bigger impact on that. I didn't feel that I was making the progress that I wanted to addressing solely adults. And these pathways, now that's becoming a collegiate NCAA sport, now there's more incentive to encourage more youth to get into the sport. Because honestly, I would talk to parents. I'm like, outside of health and wellness, I really don't see any benefit to getting youth involved in the sport, besides like opening the doors and, you know, finding more of these activities. But now there's more incentive to pathways to college and education and career opportunities. So that's where I'm at right now with that. And I'm really engaged in pushing the barriers and bringing more, I guess, corporations on board with urban communities.
Okay, so it's really now going from all of us who were just trying to participate in triathlon for all these decades to now finding that next group where you guys are, you know, getting sponsors, getting on the podium, that representation versus just there's a lot of us now at races.
Yeah, it's now like I see the benefit of higher level of competitive athletes that are Black and brown. That's the next step. It's like I would love to help develop the next Olympic athlete, and that person that wins, their stage is Black. I think that's the next step, because there's still a huge gap. Like I talked to athletic directors, and I was talking to PG County Board of Education, and they don't even know what a triathlon is. So we look at the numbers and the statistics, and we think that there's a lot of people involved and that we know. And you look at Challenge Miami or Challenge Daytona that happened, and everybody's so excited about the spectator, but it's like only triathletes watching it. It's not the general public. And we have to make the sport cool. Like in my opinion, triathlon ain't cool. It's not cool. It's not like basketball. It's just
right.
We need the Justin Williams effect that he had on cycling and triathlon.
Okay. Now I know we've talked about what making triathlon cool would look like. Because again, if you're a spectator going to a tri, I know when my family comes, they're bored, so the only way I get them to come is I take them to great locations, and, they're just waiting for me to finish so that they could go see the rest of the country. But you've been experiencing, short course racing that is actually exciting and potentially fun to watch for spectators.
Yeah. And honestly, I think until we figure out how to make triathlon more of a spectator friendly sport, it's just not going to grow. I think it's going to keep losing steam, especially when the focus is on Ironman. I don't have anything against the full distance event, but it can't be the marquee event. Like you get Kona, right? It's like the biggest thing in triathlon, but it's not spectator. Nobody's sitting in front of their computer besides maybe a couple triathletes watching it from start to finish, and even that is a lot. So I think there's something with short court racing, and now Super League has come in and really elevated the spectator friendliness of triathlon, and they've done it in so many different ways, from relays to individual events, the sprint, the enduro event, and then the relays that each one, and then you have mixed relays have been added to the Olympics for the first time. So we're seeing more of this short course racing, and I think it's fast, it's fun, it doesn't take all day, and it's exciting. It's draft legal, so you have that kind of criterium feel that you get with cycling, with like some track and field and drafting, and it's exciting. It's not just people spinning and churning, and you're patiently waiting all day to get the results. I think it's going to be the future, and I think for us to continue to grow the sport, the focus just can't be on Ironman. We've got to kind of dial back, and I think that's a challenge that USA Triathlon has struggled to get ahead of Ironman on.
Okay, so definitely got to make it more exciting for participants, and if you're gonna grow it. And I mean, if you don't see a race, it's really hard for you to say, "Oh yeah, that's something I want to do." I mean, most of us get pulled in when someone tells you about it, or you see one and you do it. But unless there's a race in your city, you may not get exposed to it to say you want to do it, compared to if you see it on TV or something like that. That just makes it kind of fun.
Yeah, I mean, can you imagine like sitting on ESPN and trying to click through an Ironman? Like, sit there, come on, man, it's not exciting. It's just not. I can't even imagine commentating on something that's like 8, 9, 10 hours or more.
Yeah, and that's if it's done fast.
Right. That's on the fast side.
Right. Yeah, they'll have to. It'll be interesting to see what they do. Now, are there any plans to take grit to other cities?
Not right now. And again, with naming and branding, it's Grit USA for the idea that this could be implemented multiple times over. And right now our format is tryout invitation only. So at the end of each season, like November, there's a application process, and it's not to like choose who's the fastest individuals. It's really to dial into heart, right?
Okay.
Like the people that want to be there without me having to ask. You're there because you want to.
Got you.
Like it's a lot of time and a lot of energy to do this when you're doing all these other things, and being around people that motivate themselves and motivate the people around them and also want to give back is something that's super important to me. So I want to keep that kind of thing going and see how we can grow it from an intimate place.
Okay. I love it. I love it. Well, I've got tons more questions, but I don't want to keep you. I don't want to keep you.
I mean, it's up to you, man. It's up to you.
I agree. It's like I feel like I've got to invite you back, so I can jump into some more of the other things I want to talk about. But I won't be greedy with your time. The first time out, because I think there's so many other things like sponsorships. Coaching athletes, getting other people involved, things like that I'd love to jump into, but I think I'm going to save that for another conversation. Just to make you come back and hang out and chit chat with me.
Absolutely, man. It's always dope, man. Always.
I shared your information so that if anyone's looking to learn more about your programs, they can definitely check you out on designfits.com, gritusa.club, districttriathlon.com. They can find you there, as well as with your IG if they want to find you at Coach_Fits. They have all that information. So once again, thanks so much for taking the time to chit chat with me, with Conversations with Coach Lloyd. I really appreciate it. I'm looking forward to more of the things that you have up your sleeve to present. Because again, every time I look up in triathlon, I see you out there, taking the sport forward. So I love that. So continue with all that you're doing. I really appreciate it.
I appreciate you, man. Thank you so much.
If you like the video, make sure you hit the like button, share, subscribe, and hit the notification button.